Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian,
Hello.
and that's Joshua Kirk. You should already know.
Hi.
It's What's on
Yeah,
Repeat,
yeah, yeah. You
April
you
to
know the
June.
spiel, people.
Um, I think this is the first time in all these years of doing it that we actually share a single. When we were getting our list sent to each other, Josh was like, "That's so funny that the single that you picked is the one you picked because that's my single." So it's going to be kind of a very fun show today. We have two different albums each. Um, some great stuff out, and I can't wait to talk about it because I am a fan of all four of these albums. And I'm interested to have a conversation. So we're going to talk about our joint single that I was really excited about, and it's an artist that I'm assuming Josh has been kind of like waiting for as well. Like,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
he's a man of many talents, and he's done a bunch of stuff, and he's in a band as well that hasn't done a
Yep.
lot recently either. Jamie XX, Treat Each Other Right. This is
All
off
we got
of
to
his
do
new
is
album.
treat each other right.
That sample does go hard. That sample does go really
Yeah.
hard. It's off his new
Yeah.
album In Waves, which is coming out in September. And we've gotten some, like, a few songs now at this point. I know he put out the single with Robin is out as well. But we are going to talk about this song in particular. I really love Jamie XX. I think we talk about electronic artists a lot on this channel. And the one thing about Jamie that I love is, like, we got someone like Flume, where Flume is, when he's not doing his mainstream stuff, he's very weird and experimental. When he does his main albums, he puts that weird experimental stuff, but he likes to make pop songs. I got it. We have electronic artists who are more mainstream, more poppy. We have electronic artists who aren't really changing the game, but just put together really great house music. Um, I would say Jamie is in kind of a camp with, like, Disclosure. I don't think Jamie is necessarily as poppy as Disclosure, but I think both of what they do well when they do it well is really good. And I love In Color. In Color
Oh
was
yeah.
my favorite albums of 2015.
Oh yeah.
2015, 9 years ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. That album's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So with this song, we get it. And I'm going to say my main thoughts on it is, obviously, one, I'm excited for the album. His first album sounded spacier and a little bit more, like, dramatic and atmospheric and heavy and dense. This song is fun. I think the sample is so catchy. I think the groove on it is fun and funky. It doesn't feel like what his first album is. His first album to me felt very, like, a lot was going on. There was a lot packed in there. This feels light and fun, but it still feels great. It reminds me of some of the really fun dancing moments on the Against All Logic album, the first one, not the second one. The Nicholas Jar side project.
Yeah. Great
Um,
album.
yeah. But I mean, that's all I have to say. I mean, I really like it. Like I said, it reminds me of what Jamie does very well, but it kind of has more of a upbeatness. Not to say his first album's, like, depressing. Like, it's not like a depressing album. It's just, it feels
I
like
mean, it
there's
does
so
have
much
kind of
more.
sad moments on it, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Which there's
Yeah.
probably gonna be sad moments on here. But
Yeah.
anyways, what you like about the song?
Oh yeah, I mean, I already alluded to, yeah, the sample, and like I love the parts where he kind of, yeah, the beat stops and you just hear like the sample,
Mhm.
and then it's like right back into the beat, and then he also samples the "I'll be there," like, yeah, throughout the song, and just like the synth tones in the second half, and there's like an excitement I get from this song that reminds me of like a song like Gosh, which is like the opening track to In
Mhm.
Color, and that song is a fucking masterpiece, and it definitely is kind of that thing where I would say a couple other songs on the album, like Loud Places or The Rest Is Noise. I get kind of this, yeah, hype feeling listening to them that even though the rest of the album is great, maybe just doesn't really give me that same like sort of just adrenaline like that. But yeah, I'm hearing this song and I'm like, oh yeah, this I would put it right there with those songs just in terms of, yeah, it's just really like fun. It's just very like fun and upbeat. And yeah, the I definitely hear you on, there's more of kind of a hard hittingness to this track that uh maybe like, because yeah, In Color was more kind of like just more kind of atmospheric and stuff like that. Although I guess uh although I will say like the song, some of the songs I just mentioned do have more of a pulse to them. And then like the track with Young Thug is kind of fun, but in kind of a different sort of way. Uh, but uh, but yeah, like you, I'm very excited for this new album. And I knew he would there was a new album in the works because he I know he's been putting like little singles on and off over the
Yeah.
past few years. And he's worked with, he did a beat for Tyler the Creator on his last record. And and then he also, he's on the newest the last Avalanches record as well. So yeah, he's, which I did see the Avalanches are also happen to be on a track from this new album. But yeah, Jamie XX, you know, really one of our most, I feel, anticipated albums for the second half of 2024.
For
Yeah.
real. But now, but see, that's later in the year. We gotta talk about what we're listening to now, Joshua. So,
Yeah.
what are your
Yep.
albums that you've been repeating?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm already spoiling one of the ones I'm going to talk about because I mean, yeah. If you are on the internet like anywhere, you've probably heard about this artist and this album. Like, yeah, it's Brat Summer, baby. Of course, I'm talking about the new Charlie XCX album, Brat. Which I'll start off this review by saying iconic album cover, like, and like my profile pic on both Facebook and Instagram is low key basically this album's cover but with the word Josh on it. um so yeah, I'm all in on the marketing, but we're not here to talk about that aspect. We're here to talk about the music, which this decade so far for Charlie has been fascinating. So anyone familiar with the What's on Repeat lore knows that our very first What's on Repeat we did, summer of 2020, we talked about How I'm Feeling Now, which, of course, that was her COVID record, and it was, but I wouldn't even like necessarily pigeonhole it. I wouldn't like pigeonhole it in like, the 2020 like uh era. Like I think it's still an album that still hold. I haven't listened to it in a while, but I imagine it holds up really well. But yeah, great album. Um and then she followed it up with Crash in 2022, which was kind of odd coming off of records like that because it was just kind of like, okay, she was kind of like, okay, I've been doing kind of off the wall stuff lately, but I'm just gonna make a normal pop record. And our opinion on that album was kind of the same in that we liked it more, a little bit more than Fantano, but we were still kind of like, it just wasn't really hitting
Mhm.
as much as other stuff of hers. It was one of those albums that like I listened to it and then kind of immediately forgot about it after it was done. Um so I kind of went into this album like, okay, are we gonna, so is she just gonna make a weird ass album again? And now it turns out listening to this record, it's kind of she's found kind of a balance of the songs are like, except they're catchy, they're in your face and have great hooks, but like the sound of all of them is like it sounds like very specific to maybe not just that PC music sort of camp, but like Charlie herself as well. Like it kind of feels like she's kind of given fans that were like let down by her last record, maybe what they really wanted, but it also kind of feels like a reformation for Charlie. Like it feels like both kind of like a serve to her fans, but also kind of something she actually wanted to make, something like that. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of songs on this album, so I'm just gonna flag a few that I feel like particularly stand out. Like Sympathy is a Knife, like that song. I mean, great lyrics, punchy beat. She sounds great on it. The hook is really fantastic, and um, yeah, and kind of like I feel like on this record, she's kind of making a record that's like uh fun, but also like with the emotions going into it. She's kind of yeah. This is like she's kind of very upfront and vulnerable on the on this record in a way that I mean she's had songs like that on previous records, but it's just kind of she's just kind of this feels even more like okay, I'm Charlie XCX, this album is who I am. And because like because like with a song like So I, which is like you and I have kind of reached a consensus of it's probably the best song on the album. Like, I mean, likely like it's likely her best ballad so far in terms of just I mean just the lyrics, her on it, that chorus, the melodies, and just like the sound of it. Um and there's really like few songs this year that really like uh few songs I've heard this year that really deal with loss and do it in a way that like hit this hard for me. Obviously, it would make sense because yeah, to anyone who follows me on my socials, yeah, you've probably heard. Yeah, I've dealt with a little bit of loss myself, so like so this song definitely was very much kind of visceral for me. Uh, but like other songs I like Von Dutch uh is definitely I like how some songs are kind of like songs, but others are basically just like club jams. Everything is romantic. Probably her most unique song just in terms of the different sounds and kind of that structure, which at first with that song I was kind of like yeah, it seemed kind of disjointed on my first listen, but like the more I hear it, I'm like, this is like genuinely like the way this song is put together, just on all fronts, is like genius. And and like the little like shorter tracks of I might say something stupid and I think about it all the time. Those are like cool kind of these are the most just introspective points on the album. And yeah, I think uh I think they just really add to this whole so really just add to the flow in an interesting way. And then like 365 is like yeah, I love how it's basically like a flip of the opener 360, but as like this completely different song and just like sonically too. That song is just like yeah, crazy. Z and yeah, I pretty much yeah, I feel like that's kind of, you know, the genesis of like kind of my take on this album. Like a lot of people, I think this is probably my favorite Charlie XCX album so far, and it really like wasn't until maybe my third listen where I kind of decided like, okay, I think she did it, and did it. That yeah, I'm kind of curious if you have any like points you would want to make about this record.
I mean, I think my thing about it was I wasn't necessarily shocked at people's reaction. I think Charlie is one of those interesting pop artists like a Carly Rae Jepsen where she
Yeah,
started as, the whole Call Me Maybe thing, and after that she clearly like ventured
which
out
that
and
that song still goes hard, by the
I
way,
mean, no,
for
it's
those
still a
not
good
aware.
song. But then after that, like she wanted to kind of go off and like we have emotion, and then what she's been doing with like dedicated, and her going more hardcore into a lot of those sounds, and her
Yep.
excuse me. And that's kind of the same thing with Charlie. You think about it, like every time I think about Charlie, I think about that song from whatever that book is, the John Green book. Boom, clap, the sound, like that song. And like, granted, I do like that song, but it's like again one of those things where when Charlie started off, she was making that kind of pop music. And then I think Charlie was the next album she really had out. Well, I know she had stuff out before that,
Yeah,
but
Vroom Vroom, the
yeah, she was
EP.
putting out stuff before that.
Yeah.
It, Charlie then kind of initially put her in that trajectory, and you painted it very well too with, her albums and what she was doing. I'm definitely in the camp that I don't think this is her best record. I think I was very shocked, not that people liked it, more of the the universal, oh my God, this is the best album of the year. Like I was very like, oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah,
I
that's
saw
nuts.
like
I
Anthony
mean,
gave it a 10, and every like album of the year, like it seems like everyone's like, oh my God, this is blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing, like my opinion on it is I'm very much a not negative person unless I need to be. And my whole thing is if people think this is their album of the year, that's awesome. And like, I take nothing away from that because I don't think it's bad. Like I'd be more shocked if I didn't like it, but I mean, I get it. I just felt like I didn't have a full on like there was never a moment for me where I was like, "Oh my God, let's go." I was just like, "Yeah, okay, Charlie's just doing some house music stuff and some electronic dance music and but like I never like but I don't mean that in like a negative way either. Like I didn't like listen and go whatever. I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so for it
okay.
to be like that staple, I was just like, oh, okay. But like you said, I think the singles are really great. So I is a beautiful, haunting track. I think the reference of like the Sophie song, It's Okay to Cry, and like that, I thought, God, I was like, Jesus, you're just really going for it, aren't you, Charlie?
Yeah. Woo.
But it makes sense because like one, she's doing music like this, but two, I'm assuming they were friends at some point, and like, I don't know the backstory there, but like, I think it's also one of those things too with this style of music that where it is now, like Sophie's kind of the gatekeeper of that, like the real, you know, and we're gonna see an album from her, a posthumous album, and her only posthumous album, that's
Oh
basically
wow.
done. Yeah, so that's coming out in September as well.
I would say I'm definitely with the hype people on this one. But yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, well, not quite album of the year for me,
Yeah.
people. But like we you know what, Brian? How about we go from the dance floor to the mosh pit
Ooh,
for my
what a
next album?
transition.
Because yeah, I'm gonna be talking about some hardcore, baby. Which this is a band that I heard of them 2021. And I know they put out their debut around that time, but it wasn't until this year that I decided to really like put in the work, give them a listen. And so when I saw that their newest album had been announced, I'm like, okay, I shall sleep on this group no longer. Um, and it's one step closer with all you embrace. Um, so for hardcore records, um, this year, I feel like for what's on repeat, I was kind of debating this and the new Not Loose record, which
Mhm.
not which obviously the new Not Loose record, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Brian and I both love it. Uh, which now that album is kind of there's kind of the two different sides to hardcore, and that album is basically just, granted, there are kind of melodic touches to the album, but that album is just, yeah, an aggressive, disgusting, just like, yeah, it's just wild. But this album is kind of uh this is kind of rock music that I think is very popular right now. I mean, thanks to bands like Turnstile or other groups we've talked about, like I know you brought up Military Gun and their debut
Yeah.
last year, where it's kind of those hardcore riffs and drums and vocals, but with kind of melodic hooks and songwriting that tends to, like, there's a bit of an emo kind of
Yeah.
flavor to it. In this album, yeah, it's just a tight 11 songs in 32 minutes, and it it just goes hard. Like, I mean, Color You is a great way to kick off the album. I love the energy and kind of the mix of like I love how the vocalist will kind of shout and then like sing within the same sentence. So we'll go from like like, yeah, like something like that. And I just think the hook is fantastic, and yeah, yeah, kick ass opener. Um, Leap Years, I think, is just a perfect summary of like the band's strengths in terms of yeah, just the between like the drums. I love like the riffs, like the one that opens songs, the woo woo, like, yeah, and just like, yeah, the hook, and it's just a nice, like, tight 2.5 minutes of just awesomeness. And then Blur My Memory, I think, is a really, like, yeah, speaking of kind of interesting song structures, like this song is like, um yeah, I just love, you'll get like a drum solo, but and then you'll get kind of a little like and just a little like riff, and yeah, it's cool. Orange Leaf, it's probably my most replayed song on the album. Like, that song is fighting with Leap Years right now, is my favorite song on here. I just love the riff, and yeah, just the his and just like his singing on this song, like, but you don't have to speak of this tragedy. And yeah, yeah, it's a banger. Um, and I think the album pretty much ends as strong as it finished, pretty much ends as strong as it starts. Like Giant's Despair is one of those kind of more expansive, kind of just emotional songs near the end of the album, and like compositionally, that song I think is really well done, and I just love like what they do on that. And then So Far For Me, I think, is a great way to like end this record. It's a nice kind of cathartic send off. Like, I love how like there's such an interesting flow to the album. I like how this song kind of takes you from so song, like, kind, like I like how like Giant's Despair is kind of like, feels like kind of a journey ending, and then this song is kind of like a new journey beginning. Like, it's that interesting sort of like uh contrast near the end, and yeah, it, and yeah, it's a great album. It rocks. I'm happy to have gotten into this band this year, and I'm really happy you ended up enjoying this record too, because I was listening to this album being like, oh yeah, this sounds like something Brian would totally listen to. Um,
No, it scratched
but,
that itch for sure.
but there you go. Those are the two albums that I've had on repeat, like May to June at least, because April was a little bit strange.
Oh, very good. I'm gonna go through my first one quick, not because I don't care about it. I love this record, but I don't think A, there's gonna be a lot of conversation, and B, you'll just know why. I don't know why that
Yeah.
would be. So the first album I have is The Story So Far. I Want to Disappear. The Story So Far is a pop punk band that's been around for quite a while now. They've been over a decade now, and the thing that I told Josh about this band is, yeah, this is, I'll always warn him if it's a pop punk album, what kind of pop punk he's getting in for. And I was like, yeah, this is that, like, very much that if you think of the stereotypical generic pop punk sound, this is probably what you're going to expect. My opinion on this album is I really love it. Whatever you put into the album is what you get. So I think if you go into this album expecting something so crazy and amazing, you're not going to get it. I think if you go into it expecting solid hooks, good riffs, strong vocals, it's what you get. I think this album it does exactly what it needs to do. It's 28 minutes long, it's 10 tracks, and I don't think there's nearly a miss on here because I just think it just goes and goes and goes and it just hits you in the face. It's been 6 years since their last album, and I think this does a good reset to get us back on track. All This Time, I think, is a great intro to the album. Watch You Go, I think, I love the way it transitions into the song, and the drums are like, na, 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 na. I think that's great. Letterman slows things down. I like the vocals on there. Big Blind definitely has a lot of those stereotypical sounds of pop punk, but I think it actually is catchy and it works very, very well. The ending is very controversial for a lot of people. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about the last two songs, White Shores and the self-titled song, I Want to Disappear, mainly because they're both, well, the second to last song is kind of acoustic-y, and then it gets big at the end, and then the last song is an acoustic track. I actually think they're both really well done. I mean, I guess maybe them being the end of the album is not, some people's cup of tea, but I think it ends the album nice, and I think again, vocally and especially lyrically, it works very well. Um, I mean, like I said, it's that kind of album. If you go into it expecting something more, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. I think if you go into it just expecting a kind of solid pop punk record, you're gonna get what you get out of it,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. I think I want to yeah, interject a little bit here cuz I feel like you and I talk about like certain genres of music that that people like to make fun of and be like you, I don't like that kind of music. It's stupid. And pop punk has definitely kind of fallen victim uh to that a lot. Especially with some of the more mainstream stuff like coming out right now, like MGK, Willow, Youngblood, which granted not particularly great artists, but like this is just yeah, that's what's been popular and on the radio and like even some of the bands that helped like popularize that sound like Green Day and Blink 182, like I mean they're still relevant, they're still putting out new music, they're still on the radio and that, but I wouldn't say like this genre is like ruined because of uh because of this stuff. Like there's still like uh, great pop punk out there. Like, and obviously the album I just talked about, like, it felt like just a natural transition because the One Step Closer record, that's kind of pop punk, in a
yeah.
way. but like, but yeah, when you messaged me warning me like this is not gonna be for you, I'm like, okay, but I still came in with an open mind, but yeah, like I mean, but like yeah, first off, vocals they just sound whiny to me. Like, yeah, like that first song, like, like that's basically, yeah, how that sounds. So right out of the gate, I'm like, okay, yeah, red flag. Um, and yeah, and then the yeah, and then in terms of the lyrics, yeah, it's basically just the dumb stereotypes of the genre. There's no real like nuance to it. Oh, and yeah, and you already know I'm picky about the production of music. Like, yeah, yeah, there is some bad mixing on this record. Um, like many vocal mixes, I think are just so faint that I can sometimes barely hear them over top of the instrumentation because it's so overpowering. And it's not just during the chorus, but I think it's legit a problem for me, like for the whole song. And I mean, if there's anything I could give this album, it's that I think I mean some of the melodies I thought were cool. There was maybe a hook here and there that I thought was okay, and certain moments like say maybe Big Blind, like I was kind of like, okay, those guitars uh genuinely hit hard and they sound pretty good. Like I'll give them that. Um but yeah, but yeah, dude, I'm sorry. There was just nothing in this album that really clicked for me. And I guess maybe the other thing I could give it is that it's at least not the worst album I've heard last month. Like there's actually at least one other album I listened to in June that I thought was more just like uh boring than this. But yeah, I'm not gonna say what it is just so that people don't get mad at me. But yeah, hey, I'm still glad you suggested I check it out because that meant like because I knew it would be an interesting like discussion to have, uh, for sure.
We're to talk about a band that came back again. Like it's kind of like their second, but like it didn't feel as grand this time. However, for most people, it felt like a more welcomed return than the last time that they returned. That
Oh
is
yeah, definitely for me.
Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us.
Yes.
Um, Josh was terrified to listen to this album. I was I was excited. I think I wasn't nearly as excited because the singles weren't like terrible. I think that's maybe the thing with Father of the Bride is I think the reason why, like, here's the thing. Apparently I'm just one of the few people that likes that album. I understand why people don't like it because it definitely feels like it's a let's just do what we want and see what kind of fun stuff we do, because I think Father of the Bride has some high highs, but there are some low lows. And I think a lot of people came away from that album like, oh, Rostam's not in the band. What are y'all doing? Blah, blah. But then they kind of went away. And then we got this album. And I know there's going to be a thing that I'm probably going to bring up a lot, which is like, oh, this just sounds like them, but more mature. I may say it a bunch because let me tell you, I for a lot of these songs, I got teleported back to 2013 when I was listening to Modern Vampires of the City, and I was like listening to Vampire Weekend. Vampire Weekend is such a generational band, and like they were so big with me in high school, and a lot of my memories and like what I remember and a lot of the stuff that I pull back from is from those early albums. And this album made me emotional because it brought me back to like, oh my God, this is what, like, this really is like what they
Yeah,
put.
yeah, that's why when you messaged me, this album's fantastic, I was maybe a little bit shocked. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
I don't know if they're necessarily the pioneers, but they came in with a certain kind of sound that very, prep school, look at me, hoity toity
I
kind of.
mean, they got a song in here, Prep School Gangsters.
Exactly. And this album really just sounds like it's those people matured. And I think some of my favorite songs by them are on this album.
Yeah,
And unlike Father of the Bride, which again, I think Father of the Bride in retrospect feels like it's them just kind of doing this. This is 10 songs, 40 minutes, a little over 40 minutes. It is a tight, concise record. I think the cover is incredible. And
yeah.
the songs on it's like Connect and Mary Boone, I think are two of
Yes.
my favorite Vampire Weekend songs of all time. I'm going to talk about the one that's more fun. Connect. I remember listening to that intro to that song and being like, oh my God, because it feels like it's like stuff from them. It's new stuff. It's unique stuff.
Yeah.
The vocals, uh, uh, it's unique. It's interesting. I think Ezra sounds fantastic on it. The first three songs,
The piano is baller on that song.
it's hypnotizing. It is absolutely stunning. The first three songs on this album are fantastic. I think when Connect hit, that was when the emotional part of it came on to me. Because again,
Yeah.
you look at this track list here, and like Ice Cream Piano is a great way to start. Classical is a solid song. Capricorn is a song that I think, in hindsight, in the album is much better. As a solo song, I wasn't really into it as much. When Connect hits, that was the first time where I sat back and was like, oh my God, this really is like Vampire Weekend in 2024. It feels like Contra or Self-Titled or Modern Vampires. It feels like the continuation of what they were doing on those albums, but they're maturing. This album feels, it really, like, I think we've talked about this handfuls of times where it's this album feels like an artist, but they're growing up and they're black. I'm gonna tell you, like, no bullshit. This album feels like it is the most perfect representation of Ezra and the boys are looking back at their youth and like writing songs about where they are now and like kind of the encapsulation of where they're going. And it's gorgeous. Mary Boone, we're talking about So I. This song, the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh, this is like a top 5 single for me. I love the way Ezra opens up with that his high pitch voice, right? I love the little twinkle of it. I love just the lone bass line, the whoa, 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 like, and it's
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's like and then there's the beat. Yeah, it was like yeah, I like Ezra's little yeah, in there is like cool as well.
it
Yeah,
feels, this song feels so dirty and dusty and like just emotional. And again, I think it's like the way the song progresses and the way that Ezra comes in and out and the instrumentation comes in, it's like it's so bizarre to me because like I'm listening to this record and it's like I'm getting all of these thoughts. Like I'm getting like Black Country New Road vibes or like vibes of bands like that have so many different things going on, but it's like this album is not even as complicated as like
I mean it's
band like
10
that.
songs like
Yeah.
that album, but like it's shorter by like 11 minutes.
Yeah, and it's like there's just so much nuance. Gen X Cops was the single that I was more into. I love just the me 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 me, and then just I love that driving drum kick beat. I think Ezra sounds great on it. I love the chorus, the like bam 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 bam. Like I thought that was great. I will say I was very much shocked that I wasn't alone in thinking that it's not a bad song. It's not even, it's fine. It's a good song. The Surfer is probably the only song on this album that I'm like, I think it's just a little too long-winded for what it's doing. And it's like, I think if it was shorter, chef's kiss. But
Yeah. That one has grown on me a bit.
other than that, this album is, again, I think this album stereotypically is funny because a
Yeah.
lot of like those, it's them returning to form, all that bullshit is this album, but it doesn't ever feel like, oh my God, Vampire Weekend is back to do like it feels like that. You
And
know,
also I will say it pretty much shuts down the like they're not the same without Rostam allegations.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
yeah, they're good, they're fine. And I think this to me is good that this can be their way to be like, okay, we're back. Again, I'll defend Father of the Bride for certain reasons because I think there are some fantastic songs on there. Fantastic. But it is all over the place. It is, here's all the ideas we want to do. This album is, here we go. Here's this tight knit album. And if I don't know, if you don't like this music or Vampire Weekend in general, maybe you'll like this because it is more mature, but there are still a
I
lot of
think it's their best album so far. I would say that.
I mean, I would, I think my whole thing is I'd have to kind of go back to that initial trilogy because I would say I do like it more than Modern Vampires because that album
Same.
went into that gospel-y style. Like it was Vampire Weekend, but with more gospel influence.
Yeah.
But this album, I'm telling you, dude, I got kind of emotional because I'm like, oh my God, like it was like when Kendrick Lamar brought out all of Black Hippie at his Juneteenth concert. I'm like, I'm back in high school right now. Like this
Wow.
high school Brian. This is what I get from this album is all that nostalgia of listening to Vampire Weekend and being like, ugh. But I'm about to die, so I need to get more water. So talk about how much you love this album. Damn it.
Oh yeah. I mean I pretty much have a lot of the same thoughts about I mean obviously I don't have the same like memories or nostalgia for Vampire Weekend. I mean because my nostalgia is like I mean summer of 2013 I was like obsessed with them. Obviously Modern Vampires was like their current album at the time. And I would say over time, like that's the album that I feel like has stood the test of time the most for me. Cause like whereas their first two records, I think I mean Contra I definitely like a little more than uh their first record, but like over time and like just thinking about that album in hindsight, I'm kind of like, like it's a little bit annoying. There's some choices here and there that haven't exactly aged the best. And then yeah, Father of the Bride. I'm kind of with uh most people in that. I thought, yeah, like too many songs and like some of them. I mean, Harmony Hall. I will agree with you. That song is fantastic. But like yeah, overall I was kind of like yeah, I was really excited about the return, and I came away just kind of like okay, yeah, that didn't really completely work for me. And and for this album, like I needed this is one of those albums I needed to give it like two full listens the day it out to I guess get more of the full effect. But yeah, that second listen was enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, Vampire Weekend is for real back in, yeah, I definitely would say this is this is, yeah, I would say that I think, like with Charlie, these guys have done it. Like they've made their magnum opus, and I think I would put this album solidly in my top 3 albums of the year so far. Eh, eh,
Well, there you have it, everybody. We had some lows this episode, but it's okay because I was ready to hear how much he hated it. It's okay.
eh.
I was prepared mentally, but it's okay because do you like any of these albums? Did you not like any of these albums? Do you have different albums you like? Leave them in the comments below. Um, dude, you know what I'm mad about? Let me tell you something. Let me rant to you. Remember how we were talking about how this year it's been good, but
Yeah,
it hasn't felt like it's gone crazy. And then now, fucking, what's going on? We got Jamie, Sophie, um,
we got like Remy Wolf, Denzel
Remy
Curry,
Wolf, Childish
uh
Gambino,
Porter Robinson,
Porter
uh
Robinson,
Orville Peck,
or Pat.
Nick Cave. uh,
I'm trying to think, what else do we have?
Um, well, yeah,
Denzel
I will.
Curry has a new
Oh
album.
yeah, I just mentioned him. Yeah, like shout out to Denzel. Uh, and
Choo Choo. What the
shoo
hell?
shoo.
Why?
Oh, when
Why do you do this to us?
oh yeah, and like Claro, Bright Eyes, like it's crazy. So many albums. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
So
like
it's disrespectful.
eh,
So disrespectful. Now I have all this shit I gotta listen to.
yeah,
Disrespectful. But okay, well, I guess we'll see you next time. And why are
yeah,
we doing this again? July, August, September. Oh, so maybe Sophie, maybe Gambino, maybe some Jamie. Did I say Sophie first or Jamie?
yeah.
I don't know. I
I
said both of them. And probably some other shit that's gonna come out and ruin everything. Uh
yeah.
Thank you all. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm losing my mind. These stupid allergies. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for doing the channel. You gave me that, everyone.
Yeah, here we go.